Hey everybody, it's Cheryl. I was going to make a video on this latest clock that I've been working on. I ordered this Hamilton clock for my mom because she had a Bulova, very similar style. I'll get the face off. Similar style Bulova, and it was probably like a 1990, and it had some plastic in here. It wasn't all brass, and so it was worn out and not repairable. So I found this one on shopgoodwill.com and I bid on it and I like it. So I'm going to get it working for her. It is, if you'll look at the bottom down here, there's a date. It says 79, so that's the year. It's got a Hermle movement in it, a 30-20, 340-20. And they stamped the date on there, and then in 1988 they went to a letter system. So if you have one with a letter, it's 1988 or later. This is a floating escapement. It just sits here. It's not attached to anything. Little spring at the top keeps it going. Perpetual movement. They changed that around the same time in the 80s, mid-80s I believe, to more like a watch movement at the top. There's a spring that's flat like this part, and it turns like a watch and keeps the movement working. So I got this and I opened it up, I checked it out. These weren't working, of course. It needed to be oiled. It looked clean, but it was definitely dry because when I would pick these up, they would stay up in the air. That one too, especially that second one. It's falling and hitting, but it's still quiet, so I need to adjust where it hits. But that's the first one. Didn't even hear the second one. Very quiet. And then these three are hooked together to gong on the hour. So I thought, well, maybe I got lucky. It's going to work. I'll oil it, get the gongs working, and see what happens. The only part that would wind was the time in the center. It's got 3 places to wind. So only the time would wind. The strike and the melody, the chime, would not wind. They were already fully wound, and that's because the chime will not run, so the strike won't run either. This has to go off every 15 minutes, and on the hour it triggers this. So I took the front off just to see if it's something simple to fix, and basically this center pin for the minute hand and hour hand, it's a snail. So it's like so, with a nut and an E-clip when you first open it. You take the hands off and remove that to get to this bottom. I lived in Florida for years and years, so these little symbols always remind me of the hurricane symbol in Florida, but this one has 4 little points on it. One is bigger than the other ones. That's the hour that goes off. So as I turned it, there's a little tab, a little button on the back side of this arm, and it was barely lifting this. So it wasn't lifting it enough to put it in warning. And so that was the problem. So I've tried to adjust this in the clock. It's not going to adjust. So my next step is going to be taking all this apart, cleaning it, oiling it, getting it back working, get it back together. So hang with me and we'll see if we can get it working. So the first priority in taking it out of the case after you've taken the hands off of the front is to take this little floating bird assembly out. You don't want to damage that. Your clock's not going to work anymore. You can get a replacement for this, but it's not going to be, if it's this older style before 1985, it's not going to have this same spring system. That may not be important to some people, keeping it original. Some people, this Hermle has been selling movements in the U.S. for probably close to 100 years. They still sell this same movement in the U.S. Like, you can get this same movement and just replace the entire thing if you wanted to. But some of us like to keep things original and feel like the older things are made better. So that's the point of these videos. So the first thing I'm going to do is take out these two. There are two screws at the top. Let's see what's the best way to get this out. This is a cool design. I really do. It just sits in there. It's not touching the bottom right there. It's just floating with that little spring. And the spring goes one way on half of it. It has a little bend right there, and then goes the other way on the other half. And that's what makes the whole clock work. Okay, so let's get the movement out of the case. I've got the movement out of the clock, and I just wanted to show you this piece right here. It's called a chime unlocking lever. I'm going to show you the little point, the point on the left hand side there. That's the little tab that lifts this whole lever, makes the entire chime side work. That little thing right there has to be in contact with one of the four little lift levers on your minute arbor. If it's been bent down or there's wear and it's not, I feel like the movement that I've got, someone turned it backwards at the wrong time when it was in warning and bent it away from the pin. So I've had a heck of a time getting it where it would actually touch again, but I've played with it a little bit, and I want to show you. Sorry, learning my camera here. Let's see if I can get you to see this. So that thing that I showed you is right here. That's what makes this entire clock make any noise at all, is the little pin that I showed you on the back side of this. So it has to touch one of these four little things I call the hurricane symbol to make your thing go. Make the strike side, to make the chime side go. It's got to lift it high enough to put it into warning and then drop back down in there to let it go off. And if it's not, this is not going to make any noise, and so subsequently this is not. And also if you put your hand there and block it, it's not going to work. It's hard to find a good spot to do this, but let me see if I can show you with the little lever adjusted. Now it's turning like it's supposed to. And when I touch it, it quits because it's hurting my hand. Okay. It's lifting, it's dropping, it's letting it go. That's the 45 minute that just went off, so this will be the hour. And then the gong side goes off. And since the rack and snail aren't on there, it just goes off one time. But, so, I feel like I've studied it. Before you take your clock apart, make sure you look at the mechanism, if you can get it working at all, to see where the warning pins hit where on wheels, when they're activated. Like, get some basic idea of how your clock is going to work, so that when you put it back together, if it's not working right, you know where to start looking. I was going to say something, I can't think. Anyway, it's working enough now that it's just sluggish. There's a little tiny spring right here. I don't know if you can see it. It's super fine. It just sits on this little peg right there to give that enough pressure to hold it down so that it drops back down and comes back out of warning. It's gunky. Like, that's why I'm going to have to take this apart and clean it. You see this? I don't know what this is. It looks like flour. Like, whatever oil they used has turned to some other substance, because these weren't moving. This isn't, like, everything is kind of stuck. And this seems to be a common problem with this movement at this age. So whatever they used to lubricate it was not long-lasting enough. The first thing we're going to do is remove the chimes at the bottom. On both sides, 4 screws. And after that, we're going to take the springs off, because it keeps going. I always loosen each one before I take any out, because with a lot of things, if you just take them out as you go along, it's going to put increasing pressure, and the last one is going to be really tight. As you saw, it was already tighter and I hadn't even taken any out yet. Huh. Yep, okay. I have a container I'm putting them in, but for the moment I'll put them in this. I don't know about your house, but the gravity is really strong in this room. It seems like whatever I try to do bounces off this desk and hits the floor. Whether it be little tiny pins that are brass. I've got a huge magnet. I work in a hospital, so I have access to things y'all probably wouldn't, but I have a big magnet that's actually used to stop pacemakers when you're in surgery. And it's great for picking up nails in the yard when you've had your house re-roofed or anything. It's a super strong magnet. Tie a string to it, drag it around, you can find whatever you've dropped on the ground. Except if it's brass, it won't stick. So I'm down on my hands and knees a lot looking. Alright, so this is loose. There is the shut-off lever comes through here. So we're going to detach that. And this is going to go in our chime bucket. I'll show you one thing I did. I drew it all out, each side. And it's going to be in my little containers so I can tell what's what. I clean them separately. I try to keep them separate in my head. Alright, springs are going to be next. The springs for this clock, what's nice is they're in these barrels. I've worked on an open spring that don't have the barrels, and those worry me a little bit more. These are at least contained. And then what's nice is the clicks are on top with these little springs up against them, so it's easier to release the click to remove these. So this is our chime side. I have a tool I made. It's going in over there. For taking down springs. It's pretty simple. Saw it on YouTube on Mark Mundle's channel. He showed how to make a homemade one. And it's going to fit this one also. It's a broom handle. And you cut a slot in the end. First you drill a hole in the center to hold your center chuck. Then you cut sides. And you need to drill the hole deeper than you would think, because some of these keys have a piece on the other end for doing other things, so a small side and a big side. So make a multi-purpose tool, make it deeper than you think you're going to need. So you press down where I feel like it's secure. Press down to keep it from free spinning. Take the spring pressure off. If you turn it just slightly, you can release the click. This is not working well on my on my little makeshift stand I've made. Give me a minute. So what I'm trying to do is take the pressure. This is a little spring pushing on the click, taking the pressure off of this so I can let down the spring. Turn it a little bit first. It usually takes the pressure off the click, and then you can pull it away and let it turn in your hand slowly. If you get tired, you can let the click grab it again. Take the pressure off, hold it away. Let it down till it's done spinning. So this one is unwound all the way. This is my chime. And there's my chime spring. Gunky junk everywhere. Rivets, not everything's going to come off, but we'll get up under it with a toothbrush as best we can. This is a plated, whatever they call it when they put something on the brass. If I put it in my ammonia solution, it's going to get up under there and make it look really nasty, so we're just scrubbing soap and water to get this stuff off. This will be the time spring. And once again, wind it a little bit, get the pressure off of the click, and you can hold it away. And I'm right-handed, and I'm able to unwind this with my left hand pretty easily. Because this is wood and you can get good traction on it. Alright, so that one is unwound. Remove this little piece. Time. Cool part about these clocks is that you can pull that out and take the whole barrel out at one time. You don't have to take this whole movement apart. So if you get these three out of your way, you've got a lot of room to be able to see where your different cogs go. This will be the strike. Lots of pictures. Take a lot of pictures. The one time you take one shot here, one shot there, you think, oh, that'll be good, will be the one where you need 4 shots because something doesn't want to go back together right, and you need it at different angles, and you don't ever know what that one money shot is that you are really glad you took or really sad you missed. Because it makes the difference between getting it back together easily and spending hours on YouTube trying to find the right video that explains what you need to do. Alright, the strike winder and the strike spring. The next step will be taking off the outside pieces. These are nice in that they have tension screws. Maybe a little loose. Don't want to force anything. Brass will bend. Have to play with it one more time. This little pinion adjuster is good for multiple things. Wow, it does not want to lift off of there. See if we can use it the next one, see if it'll help. There's little E-clips on these other two. E-clips are the bane of my existence. I had to buy a bag of them because it seems whenever I get them off, they disappear. Go flying. There's a little tool you can buy that works for these. One. That one came off much easier. This one still doesn't want to come off. Only one. The one on the front has two of those retention screws. This only has one, but it is really just the gummy grease, the oil that they used 50 years ago. Pre-synthetic, I'm guessing, is what why they came up with synthetics. Slowly coming. Three little clips. I think this one's a little bit bigger. No, same size. This lever lifts off. A little bit of wear on it. It's been used some. And we've got a little tiny brush to get all down in there. Come out part way, but it's just not coming the rest of the way. Let's try to grease it up. The penetrating oil is out in the garage, which is a detached garage, and it's dark and cold. It got down below freezing last night in North Carolina, so I'm not anxious to run out to the garage and get the penetrating oil. Almost. Oh yeah. Yay. Check your wheel, I call them wheels, check all of your gears when you take them off. Look for wear, look for chipped teeth, spurs on the teeth, bent this whole shaft can get bent and you don't realize it till you look at it from the side spinning, and you know your clock is hanging up, you don't know why, and you turn it sideways and you see it spinning and it's going like a wagon wheel about to fall off. So check as you take them apart or as you put them back together. One. Okay, the back side's pretty clear. We need to take that little dust cover off. This is a little dust cover. Covers a little hole right there. I'm loving my new light. My son got me that for Christmas. Before that it was my little book light and some readers to magnify everything. So this is really nice to work on clocks. Blow it up so you can see it. Okay, we're ready to start on the front side. So a couple pieces I've taken off already. There's my rack and my snail. They just had little E-clips on the top and they slide right off. You saw me take that off. The hands were on the front with one little nut. So not hard to remove the hands. They pull straight off. And then one washer and large E-clip goes on this to hold your snail gear on. This large washer will go right here on the top of this, and it'll cover that and keep this from being able to come off. So large washer, large E-clip on that. So you take those off, your snail will come off, which also lets you take this gear off. One little E-clip, your rack is off. Let's see, let's take the rest of the rack off. There's one little spring here. And I'm going to take it off of this post. Okay. I hope my hands aren't in the way. I won't really know until I look at this video because I've not done this before. I've never videoed a whole clock I've taken apart before. I've just videoed if I had problems and felt like I could record something that was hard for me to find the solution to. Then when I figure out the solution, I'll record it and put it out there for people to see. I've looked on Time Savers. That's where I got the picture of this chime lift lever. They sell all of these parts still. And that's 45 years ago, but you can, this one little piece is how much was it? I can't remember. This one was $22. This one was about that. You know, so if you wanted to rebuild it piece by piece, you would have so much into it. The whole movement is about $300 if you want to buy it. And a lot of people do that. That is not going to come off probably. Okay. So we need to take off these levers. These are your two cans that make the chimes work. There's a bar back behind here. That's little skinny one is your 15-minute, 30-minute, 45-minute, and your hour. And your hour is the longest, and it's got the little hump that raises it up higher that lifts this and activates this side. So without this side working, you're never going to get any gong. If your clock will not make any noise and you don't have this is your shut-off lever, if it's not activated and it should be making noise, then your whole problem is right here between this lift lever, this turning these two arms. This is your, well, what wheel is it? On the chime side, should be the 4th wheel, has the warning pin on it. And notice when you're taking it apart, it's usually hanging around right here between 12 o'clock and 1 o'clock, pretty much right where this point is on this thing is where you're going to put this warning wheel when you put it back together. So things like that are what's most important to notice when you're taking it apart. Some things are going to be obvious how they go back together. These will be the most important. If this is not in the right spot, it's not going to shut off at the right time. It's not going to let these two levers go down together and shut your whole mechanism off, and your thing's going to continue to go around and around and around and around and around. You're going to go, why won't it stop? This reason it has 2 arms is that it has an automatic time correction, because when you use this nighttime shut-off lever, if you don't want it making noise, then it's not going to turn and do anything. Then when you turn it back on in the morning, it has to catch up. So the way it does that is an extra deep notch here at the 45-minute one. And it'll fall in there, and it won't make any noise until your hands go around and around and around and you get to that point. And then it'll lift and do the hour chime. So that way you don't have to go into it and set it like a cuckoo clock. You go in on the side and push the buttons and make it go up to the one that it's supposed to go in, or some of them have a string at the bottom that you can pull. This one has an autocorrect feature. That's what the second arm is for. That's all that it does. It just locks to make the time be right with the hands. So we're going to take those 2 levers off and then those 2 cams. I'm going to go ahead and take this one arm off because it came loose while I was trying to hand hold it and work on things. I was holding the little arms. This one, for this lever, it doesn't just slide off. There's a little screw adjustment on the side right here. I hope you can see that. So the top lever comes off with this E-clip, and then the bottom lever you think would lift off too. It doesn't. It has a screw that holds it on the post below it. So loosen that. And the post will lift out. Well, it'll lift off of the post. Just checking for wear, grooves. I run my fingernails along and make sure there's not. Make sure your pins are tight. You don't need to solder anything. That things look level, nothing's bent, because sometimes these little arms get bent when people do things they're not supposed to, or it falls. Alright, the little cams have two, this is what I was telling you about on the front side. There are two little lock screws, and I've got to get a smaller screwdriver because it's tiny. About like so. So loosen one. Loosen the other. I don't think it's been taken apart for a while, that's for sure. Ugh, more green gunk. Okay, and I believe there's one screw on this one. Nope, two on that one also. My little screwdriver is bent. Little metal piece came off, but it's magnetized, so it's stuck right on there and got in the way of my unscrewing. Oh, my clocks are going to start going off. Oh, that one does not want to unscrew. So I guess this is why a lot of people don't put videos up of what they're doing, because it's a whole lot of tedious things. But it really helps if you're a beginner to watch people struggle through the tedious parts too. And to know where the struggles are, to be careful of different things. So yeah, I'll just skip ahead. just zoom on up past this part. gummy piece off. Man, there. I'm curious what they used. So that's the pin that I was talking about. If you can see it right there. That's what both of those arms are going to interlock on top of when it drops down for the hour to shut off. Okay. And this guy lifts right off. And there's, I'm going to have to straighten that probably, maybe not. So this is how it looked on that internet page to order it. That's the piece, that's the little spot I was pointing at right there. And I feel like it was not angled like that on the internet page. It's had some wear. It looks like it's just punched in there. It's got a little star shape on the end. I wonder if I could tap it out and turn it 180 degrees and put the tall side where it would hit and make it last longer. I mean, I adjusted it where it's still hitting, but that's a lot of wear because you think about 50 years of hitting on that same little spot over and over and over. You'll notice on these gears there's one that's taller, that's the hour, and you'll see where there's lines across it where when it quit working properly it would just go across the top. It wasn't being lifted by the arm, it just sat there and went across. The rest of them were shorter, so it didn't touch it at all, didn't do anything, and then when it get to this one it would just scrape across the whole thing. Alright, so I put a little masking tape on each of these little arms so I can tell which one goes where. I don't know if they're different. They're probably two and two, the same. They curve in and in. Some of these movements, maybe, I think I saw one from about 75 that was a solid piece, so your mounting brackets may look different, but just know which side's right side up because it'll matter on the holes in your case more than likely. So we'll take these off and we'll see if the whole thing's gonna explode. They're not on super tight. And for cuckoo clocks, I mean, you definitely had to have the right tool. This one, you can loosen it up with anything and they just come right off. Alright, I'll slowly loosen these. I don't think these springs come off, but I'll check when I get the plate off. I'll check when I get the plate off to see if these little springs come off. These clicks are riveted on. I don't know if the springs are, so I'll check on the back side when I get the plate off. I'm just going to loosen each edge and see if I can maybe get gears to stay in place. So some of these go all the way through. that's what we have. This was that flower looking stuff I was talking about. I mean, it's terrible. Whatever they used was really bad. It's not as bad on that one. There's our little warning wheel. So that's our minute hand. It's not going to come out apparently. Which is what held that one in place. So most of our time train came out with the centerpiece. And we'll leave that for now. Okay, well, I'm going to take all these gears, I'm going to stand them up in their holes and take a picture, and then I'm going to get some warm soapy water and scrub one little batch at a time, and I'll see you in a little bit. I have not cleaned these yet. I just got each one back in their pivot hole to get an idea of where they were and take a picture. I was really glad I had done the drawings, because if you draw it out, if you're looking from the side, you can see which way they need to face, whether the gear is here and the little lantern is on which side of it, so which way it goes. When I took the top off, I got two pieces reversed. I had one from the time side into the strike side, and the piece I had left over, I'm like, this just will not go, because when you look from the side, each little gear has to go into a lantern to keep the whole process turning as it goes up the chain. So I had my little drawings, and I could see which way they needed to go and was able to tell which ones I had switched. So I just wanted to show you, in case yours went crazy when you took the top plate off. Also, I was able to get the hurricane symbol off the top plate. This little guy slid off pretty easily. Put something under it to start it, prying up a screwdriver slowly, gently on each edge, and then I could get needle nose pliers under it and lift it up. It wasn't on super tight, so that was good. And then the other piece was this little gathering pin that goes on the strike side. It came off and let me be able to get this pin out of this plate and into this movement, so I could show y'all each thing in case you need to see what is where. So I'm going to take the time out of the middle first. So first pin, second pin, that was the one that was all the way through this and had the hurricane symbol on the other side of it. Third wheel, fourth wheel, fifth wheel is an escapement sprocket, and then the thing that keeps it moving. That's the verge. It goes back and forth. Okay, so I'm going to put all of that in the time side. Now we'll do the strike side. you know, your spring is here. So this is the first wheel after the spring. The one that looks like it has flour all over it on mine. The second wheel has a little star on it. Third wheel goes through the plate and has the gathering pin on the outside right here. Fourth wheel, and then the fifth is our flapper. Alright, last section is, so that's the stripe side. I'll put that there. The chime section. Spring. First wheel. Second wheel. Third. Fourth. And my spinner. So the notch, the cutout on this goes towards the front. The back holds the straight side. The notched out part goes towards the front. So, chime side, strike side, time. I'm going to go clean all these up and start putting everything back. I've cleaned the parts and gotten them ready to go back in. Some basic cleaning things, nothing major. Hot water and dish soap. A good scrubby thing is a dog toothbrush, if you have one of those. It's got a big end and a little end for getting in different size parts. I had a smaller brush getting around gears. I had a little skinny tiny one that gets actually inside the holes in the plates and different things. When you're done, you're going to dry out with a Q-tip, and then you need to take a piece of wood to finish cleaning the pivot holes. A little toothpick for the small holes, and this is a barbecue skewer, shish kebab stick for the bigger holes. So you just stick it in there, twist it around. It will come out with black lines on it. No matter how good you clean it, scrubbing on it, clean it in an ultrasonic cleaner, it'll still have stuff down in those pivot holes. So take the time to take some wood and finish cleaning it out. Do that side, all the holes, flip it over to the other side. Same with the other plate.